A cruel HOA president yanked my handicapped daughter out of her wheelchair and tied her to our solar panels in the blazing sun. She had no idea I was the deputy commissioner who wrote the solar panel law. Her atrocious act would soon destroy her life and change our neighborhood forever. Before watching full video, comment below from where you're watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The screams of my daughter still haunt my nightmares. I was speeding home after getting the worst phone call of my life, Sandra. My daughter's sitter was frantic. "Mr. Davis, come quick. The HOA president pulled Lily outside and bound her to your solar panels. She's threatening to leave her in the sun until you take them down." Your daughter is sobbing for help. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Lily, my 17-year-old daughter, had been born with a spinal injury that left her paralyzed from the waist down. Though confined to a wheelchair, she had the strongest spirit of anyone I ever knew. "Is Lily hurt?" Put her on the phone. I demanded, running a red light and narrowly missing a delivery truck. "She can't talk right now," Sandra's voice cracked. "That horrible woman is still here with two men from the HOA board. They're taking pictures of your electrical panels and claiming the solar installation is illegal. When Lily tried to prevent them from coming into your office, that woman had zip ties looped on her wrists. As our county's deputy commissioner of environmental affairs, I had just bullied through legislation in support of renewable energy projects for single-family homes. It was controversial, but it needed to be done. Climate change was not holding its breath, waiting on bureaucracy to catch up, and neither was I. What I didn't know was how personal this fight would be. The meeting ran too long, as these things tend to do. Politicians love the sound of their own voices, and I'd learned to be patient. My phone was on silent, so I didn't know the first few calls from Sandra. It wasn't until we stopped for lunch that I saw 12 missed calls and a text message that sent my blood cold. "Emergency, come home now. Mrs. Winters from HOA caused trouble. Police here, Emily terrified." When I screeched into our driveway 5 minutes later, the scene made my blood freeze. A group of neighbors stood staring in amazement as Barbara Winters, a small woman with helmet-like blonde hair, stood proudly beside our rooftop solar panels. She had somehow been able to tug my disabled daughter from her wheelchair and tie her directly to the metal framework of the solar panels on our yard-level patio extension. Lily's face was flushed with weeping in the heat. Her arms were stretched painfully above her head, tied to metal frame wrapped in bright yellow zip ties that bite into her skin. Her wheelchair lay over on the lawn. "Dad, help me." Lily screamed when she saw me. "She told me she won't release me until the solar panels come down." I didn't know I could move that fast. I shoved past the two HOA board members who were trying to stop me with papers. In a matter of seconds, I stood next to my struggling to untie her from the harsh restraints. "What are you doing?" I think Barbara yelled at me. "Those panels are against HOA rules," I posted. "Postings I sent. You ignored them all, so you tied my disabled daughter to them." I yelled in anger, trying to break the zip ties with my bare hands. "She can't even stand on her own." She was having a tantrum when I came to tour the property. Barbara spoke in icily, screaming and going hysterical when I spread out that those eyes have to be removed. Sometimes difficult things are sufficient. She apparently gets special treatment due to her alleged disability. A police officer rushing forward had scissors to sever the zip ties. Once Lily was freed, I hugged her into my arms. Her face was warm with the sun, her wrist bloody where plastic had cut into her skin. "Daddy," she sobbed into my shoulder. She whispered I was feigning disability. She told me that I was to be taught obedience to authority. When Sandra attempted to step in, she shoved her onto the ground and pulled me out of my wheelchair. I stood before the policeman, my voice trembling with rage. "I want this woman arrested right now." Barbara laughed. "At what? Enforcing HOA regulations. I have every right to assault, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and child abuse." The policeman stepped in, already getting out his handcuffs. "Ma'am, turn around and put your hands in the back." "This is absurd," Barbara bellowed as the cop shut the handcuffs. "I'm the HOA president. Such solar panels violate our neighborhood covenant. They are abominations. They lower property value. I acted in defense of our community in restraining a disabled minor with metal panels from 90-degree heat." The cop shook his head in contempt. "You're facing highly serious felony charges, ma'am." Barbara's eyes flashed red in anger. "This is all your work," she spat at me. "If you simply had adhered to the rules like the rest of everyone." "These solar panels," I said slowly with my arms still draped across my quaking daughter, "are wholly legal according to state law. AB 1745 specifically prevents HOAs from inhibiting homeowners from adding solar energy systems." I pulled out my county identification card and showed it to her in her face. "I am not just Lily's father, I am James Davis, Deputy Commissioner of Environmental Affairs. I helped create that legislation." The color ran from Barbara's face for the first time. Real fear replaced her haughtiness. I, I didn't know," she stammered. "You didn't have to know," I told. Her voice stiffened. "What you needed was plain human decency. You tied a disabled child to metal panels in the hot sun because you didn't care for the appearance of our house." As the police removed Barbara, neighbors began clapping. A few came forward offering water blankets and sympathy to Lily, who was still shaking with the ordeal. An ambulance had arrived, and paramedics had cleaned up the cuts on Lily's wrists and examined her for heat stroke. That night, I sat next to Lily's bed as she drifted in and out of fitful sleep. The doctor had prescribed a light sedative to calm the trauma, but nothing could erase the memory of what had happened. "Why did she hate me so much, Dad?" Lily whispered, her eyes flicking open. "She doesn't hate you, sweetheart," I told her, touching her hair. "Some individuals get so fixated on control and power that they forget to see others as human beings. It's not about you. It's about her emptiness." In the weeks that followed, the community rallied around us. Barbara was hit with several felony charges, including assault, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and child abuse. Her defense that she was upholding HOA rules was dismissed from court. The judge, a hard-nosed woman with no tolerance for excuses, passed down a scathing verdict. "Mrs. Winters," she said from the stand, "HOA presidents are not law enforcement. They obviously don't have any authority to physically restrain somebody, let alone drag an incapacitated child outside and tie her to solar panels. Your actions weren't illegal by a mile. They demonstrate an appalling lack of basic humanity." Barbara was sentenced to 3 years in prison with no possibility of early parole. The restraining order meant she never once again approached within 500 feet of Lily or our house, but this was just the beginning of justice. Using my position as deputy commissioner, I demanded a full investigation of our HOA's practices. What investigators uncovered was stunning. Barbara had been running the association as her own fiefdom for years. Financial records showed she had used HOA funds for luxurious vacations, designer clothes, and even plastic surgery, all listed as administrative expenses. Former residents came forward with horrifying stories of harassment and intimidation. 3 months after the incident, I stood before a crowded community center. Residents voted unanimously to dissolve the HOA board and press criminal charges against all parties involved in the financial fraud. The 2 board members who had stood by while Barbara tied Lily to the solar panels were terminated from their jobs and charged with criminal offenses for failing to intervene. But the most significant change came from the state legislature. With Lily's case as a rallying cry, I worked with lawmakers to enact the Resident Protection Act, creating severe penalties for HOA overreach and winning specific protections for disabled citizens. The bill that was unanimously passed became nationally known as Lily's Law. As for our solar panels, they were still proudly on our roof, shining in the sun and acting as a beacon that cruelty and tyranny will not overcome justice. 6 months after the incident, Lily and I were sitting in our backyard. The physical scars on her wrists had healed, although she still had nightmares about being tied up in the sun, beating still overhead as Barbara towered over her. "Dad," she whispered, looking at butterflies dance around our garden, "do you think people like Mrs. Winters ever really know what they did wrong?" I put my coffee down and considered a moment. "I don't know, sweetheart. Some people are so focused on control that they never understand how they hurt others. But prison gives people time to think." Lily nodded solemnly. "I still get flashbacks sometimes, but I'm not afraid anymore. What she did was terrible, but look what resulted from it." She gestured to the neighborhood around us. She was right. In the months following the incident, every single house on our street had installed solar panels. What Barbara had feared would decrease property values had transformed our neighborhood into a model green community that was winning national environmental awards. But more importantly, the incident had taken a group of individual houses and turned them into a true community that looked out for one another. She was right. In the months since the incident, neighbors had come to me one by one, not just asking about solar installation, but actively defending Lily. What Barbara had feared would decrease property values had given rise to a model green community that was receiving national attention. But more importantly, it had transformed a group of separate homeowners into a true community united against bullying and abuse of power. That night, as I helped Lily getting ready for bed, she suddenly took my hand. "Dad, something came in the mail for me today." She handed me a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a short letter typed in neat handwriting on prison stationery. "Dear Lily, I am writing to say, I am very sorry for what I did to you. There is no excuse for what I did. Every day in prison, I think about how I tied you to those solar panels and left you suffering in the sun. I was a monster. Your father was right to fight for justice. I hope someday you can forgive me, though I will never forgive myself." Barbara Winters. I stared at my daughter in shock. "How do you feel about this?" Lily took the letter back and put it in her bedside drawer. "I think she means it," she said softly. And that's enough for the moment. My throat tightened with emotion. Despite all she had gone through, my daughter had found the strength to take an apology without letting it erase the harm that had been done. At 17, she showed more wisdom than most people gain in a lifetime. Lily's law now saves homeowners from HOA tyranny and specifically protects disabled residents from abuse and discrimination. Barbara was released from prison. She found herself an outcast. No one would speak her rent to her or hire her. Soon after, she moved away, escaping the community she had once terrorized. 3 months after she left, a package arrived at our doorstep. Inside was a handwritten letter and a donation of $50,000 to a disability rights organization in Lily's name. The letter read, "I cannot undo what I did to your daughter. Prison gave me time to confront the monster I had become. The money is all I have left from selling my belongings. Tell Lily that her courage changed me in a fundamental way. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make amends." When I showed Lily the letter, she asked me to frame it. I asked her why she'd want to have such a painful reminder on her wall. "It's not a reminder of pain, Dad," she explained, her eyes old beyond her years. "It's proof that standing up to bullies can change more than laws. It can change hearts." Later that night, I stood in our driveway, looking up at our solar panels shining in the moonlight. What had begun as a simple environmental choice had sparked a battle that uncovered corruption, united a community, created new laws, and ultimately transformed lives, including, most surprisingly, the life of the woman who had caused so much pain. And that was a victory more complete than any revenge could ever.